There are seasons when silence is not optional but assigned, when speaking becomes a liability rather than a strength, and this is especially true for the chosen one standing on the edge of destiny activation. Silence in this phase is not about hiding or shrinking, it is about divine protection that operates beyond human understanding. When God instructs you to be quiet, it is because what is forming in the unseen is too valuable to be exposed prematurely. Every calling goes through a hidden stage where it must be protected from misunderstanding, jealousy, spiritual attack, and even well-meaning interference. Words have weight, and when spoken at the wrong time, they can scatter what God is still gathering. Silence becomes the womb where destiny grows safely, untouched by outside pressure or corrupted expectations. For the chosen one, silence often feels uncomfortable because you are used to clarity, expression, and explaining your heart. But in this season, God knows that your explanations would only invite opposition before the structure is strong enough to withstand it. Protection does not always look like walls and distance, sometimes it looks like God closing your mouth so nothing leaks out. The enemy does not need access to your future if you give him access through your words. What you say reveals where you are going, what you are building, and what matters to you. Silence starves opposition of information. It creates confusion among those who once tracked your movements and intentions. It forces observers to guess rather than know. Destiny activation is a precise moment, and precision requires restraint. God does not activate destinies in noisy environments filled with opinions, commentary, and premature celebration. He activates them in stillness, where alignment can happen without distraction. Silence allows you to hear more clearly, to receive sharper instruction, and to notice subtle redirections that would otherwise be drowned out by your own voice. When you stop talking, your discernment increases. You begin to sense what feels right and what feels forced. You recognize who has access to you and who no longer does. Silence becomes a filter that naturally removes those who were only connected to the version of you that needed validation. Divine protection through silence also guards your emotions. When you speak too much, you invite feedback, and not all feedback is meant for your spirit. Some words enter your mind and plant doubt, fear, or delay. God knows that in this stage, your confidence must be rooted in Him alone, not in applause or approval. Silence keeps your focus internal rather than external. It prevents you from adjusting your calling to fit someone else's comfort level. Many destinies are delayed not by lack of effort but by too much explanation. The need to be understood becomes the trap that keeps the chosen one tied to old environments. Silence also builds spiritual authority. When you speak less, your words carry more weight. People begin to notice your presence instead of your opinions. Your energy shifts. You move differently. You are no longer trying to convince anyone of who you are becoming. God knows that authority is not announced, it is revealed at the right moment. Silence trains you to be comfortable with being underestimated, knowing that what God is preparing will speak louder than anything you could say now. Protection means allowing others to misjudge you while heaven is rearranging your position. There is also protection from spiritual backlash. Every assignment attracts resistance, and not all resistance comes from obvious enemies. Sometimes it comes from those closest to you who cannot follow where God is taking you. Silence prevents unnecessary spiritual warfare. It keeps you from engaging in battles that are beneath your calling. When you stop responding, stop correcting, stop defending, you conserve energy for what actually matters. God fights more effectively for those who know when to be quiet. Silence is a signal of trust. It says you believe God is capable of handling what you no longer explain. In this stage, silence reshapes your identity. You begin to realize that you do not need to narrate your journey for it to be valid. You do not need witnesses for every step. Destiny activation requires internal certainty, not external confirmation. God uses silence to wean you off dependency on people's reactions. The chosen one must learn to move even when no one claps, to obey even when no one understands, to trust even when no one agrees. Protection comes from being hidden long enough to be transformed without interruption. Silence also protects timing. What is revealed too early can be sabotaged, delayed, or stolen. God understands timing better than you ever could. He knows when your words will open doors and when they will close them. In silence, you are preserved for the moment when speaking will shift rooms, change atmospheres, and activate doors that have been locked for years. Until then, quiet obedience keeps you aligned. Silence allows God to surprise people with the finished work instead of exposing the process to criticism. For the chosen one, silence is not the absence of movement but the presence of discipline. You are still growing, still preparing, still advancing, but without noise. Protection through silence ensures that when destiny activates, it does so with power, clarity, and authority that cannot be questioned. What God hides, He protects. What He protects, He perfects. What He perfects, He releases at the exact moment it can no longer be stopped. Speaking too early creates openings that were never meant to exist, especially when God is still forming something in the unseen. For the chosen one, words act like signals, and every signal attracts attention. Not all attention is harmless. Some of it comes with envy, doubt, manipulation, or spiritual resistance that would not have activated if silence had been maintained. God understands that not everything He reveals to you is meant to be revealed through you immediately. Revelation and announcement are not the same thing. When you speak before the appointed time, you expose fragile stages of destiny to forces that are skilled at disruption. Spiritual interference does not always look dramatic or obvious. Sometimes it arrives as discouragement after you share your vision with the wrong person. Sometimes it comes as confusion after too many opinions enter your mind. Sometimes it shows up as delays that did not exist before you spoke. Words give access. When you speak about something God has not finished securing, you unintentionally give others a say in something they were never assigned to influence. The chosen one must understand that silence is not secrecy driven by fear but wisdom driven by discernment. There are people who will smile at your announcement and secretly doubt its possibility. There are others who will pray against what intimidates them. There are even those who will try to reshape your calling to fit their comfort. None of these people would have had influence if they had not been given information. Speaking too early invites spiritual traffic into spaces that were meant to stay guarded. God does not hide things because they are weak, He hides them because they are valuable. The more valuable the assignment, the stricter the instructions around timing and access. Spiritual interference also comes from internal disruption. When you speak too early, you bind yourself to expectations. Now you feel pressure to perform, to prove, to rush what was meant to unfold naturally. Silence allows growth without performance anxiety. It allows mistakes without public judgment. It allows refinement without unnecessary shame. God knows that premature exposure can distort your focus. Instead of listening for divine direction, you start listening for human reaction. That shift alone can delay destiny. Many chosen ones mistake enthusiasm for permission. Just because you are excited does not mean heaven has authorized you to speak. God often shares things with you to prepare you, not to broadcast them. Preparation requires privacy. Interference thrives in shared spaces. When too many voices surround a developing calling, clarity is lost. Silence keeps the signal clean. It keeps God's voice louder than everyone else's. The enemy cannot block what he cannot detect, and detection often begins with spoken words. There is also a spiritual law connected to timing. What is released early must fight longer. What is released on time arrives with momentum. When you speak before the moment God has marked, you stretch the battle unnecessarily. You expose yourself to resistance that you were never meant to confront yet. Silence shortens warfare. It allows God to move pieces into place without opposition noticing the shift. By the time you speak, the environment has already changed in your favor. Spiritual interference can even come through support that is misplaced. Well-meaning people may offer advice that sounds wise but contradicts divine instruction. If you are not deeply grounded, their words can pull you off course. Silence limits influence. It keeps your obedience clean. It protects you from having to choose between God's direction and someone else's opinion. The chosen one is especially vulnerable in early stages because the vision is still forming. Interference at this stage can permanently alter direction. God often watches how you handle information before He gives more. If you speak everything you receive, it signals immaturity, not faith. Silence demonstrates stewardship. It shows that you can be trusted with weighty assignments. Spiritual authority is built in private long before it is recognized publicly. Those who cannot guard a word cannot guard a calling. Speaking too early reveals not confidence but insecurity, a need to be seen, affirmed, or validated before the work is ready. There is also the danger of spiritual theft. When you speak too early, you give others the opportunity to replicate, counterfeit, or hijack what God gave you. Not everyone steals intentionally, but ideas, strategies, and visions can be absorbed and reused by people with fewer restraints. Silence preserves originality. It protects the uniqueness of your assignment until God brings it forth in a way that cannot be duplicated. For the chosen one, silence is a form of warfare. It is an active decision to deny the enemy access. It is choosing alignment over applause. Speaking too early invites interference because it breaks divine order. God moves in sequences. When you respect the sequence, you avoid unnecessary resistance. Silence keeps you in sync with heaven's timing, allowing God to complete what He started without interruption, without contamination, without delay. When God removes your voice, it is never to reduce you but to restructure you, because power multiplied too early can destroy the vessel meant to carry it. For the chosen one, silence is not loss, it is concentration. God knows that in certain seasons, every word you speak leaks energy that should be stored, refined, and redirected inward. By removing your voice from unnecessary conversations, arguments, explanations, and defenses, He multiplies your power internally before releasing it externally. This is the phase where strength is built quietly, without witnesses, without applause, and without distraction. Power is not always loud. The most dangerous shifts happen in stillness. When God quiets you, He is increasing your capacity. He is teaching you how to move without reacting, how to observe without responding, how to stand firm without announcing yourself. This discipline multiplies spiritual authority. You stop wasting energy on people who misunderstand you. You stop negotiating your worth through words. Silence forces your power to mature. Immature power seeks attention. Mature power commands respect without asking for it. God removes your voice so your presence can grow. When you speak less, people begin to feel you more. Your energy becomes heavier, steadier, more intentional. You are no longer scattered across conversations that do not serve your assignment. Every unspoken word becomes stored momentum. That momentum builds until it turns into undeniable impact. The chosen one must understand that constant talking can dilute influence. Silence concentrates it. Like pressure beneath the surface, it builds until release becomes inevitable. There is also multiplication through clarity. When you stop speaking outwardly, you start listening inwardly. God sharpens your discernment. You become more aware of timing, tone, and intention. You notice subtle shifts in people's behavior. You see who respects your boundaries and who only valued your accessibility. Silence reveals motives. It exposes who feeds off your reactions and who honors your growth. This awareness multiplies your power because you no longer give access blindly. God removes your voice to break patterns of emotional spending. Many chosen ones lose power by constantly explaining themselves, defending decisions, or revisiting old narratives. Silence ends that cycle. You stop pouring energy into proving things that no longer need proof. This conservation of emotional energy strengthens you. Your reactions become intentional rather than automatic. You respond from authority instead of impulse. Power increases when emotions are mastered, not expressed without restraint. Silence also multiplies power through alignment. When your mouth is quiet, your spirit becomes louder. You feel divine direction more clearly. You move with confidence that is not shaken by opinions. God knows that in order to operate at higher levels, you must be less accessible to noise. Not every message deserves a response. Not every misunderstanding deserves correction. Silence teaches you discernment about what deserves your energy. Power grows where focus is protected. There is a refinement that happens when God removes your voice. You become selective with words. When you do speak, it carries weight. People listen differently. Your words land deeper because they are no longer common. God multiplies power by making your speech rare and precise. Silence is training for authority. Leaders who speak constantly lose impact. Those who speak intentionally shift atmospheres. God prepares chosen ones to influence rooms, not just conversations. God also removes your voice to test trust. Can you remain obedient without explaining your obedience? Can you stay confident without public agreement? Can you move forward while being misunderstood? These tests multiply power because they strengthen internal validation. You no longer need external permission to obey God. That independence is powerful. It frees you from emotional manipulation. It anchors you in divine approval rather than human response. Silence multiplies power by allowing God to fight for you. When you stop speaking, you stop interfering. God steps in where you step back. He defends what you no longer defend. He clarifies what you no longer explain. This divine exchange increases your authority. You learn that power does not come from winning arguments but from staying aligned. Silence invites divine intervention. It creates space for God to move without your commentary. For the chosen one, silence is not absence but accumulation. Every quiet moment adds strength. Every unspoken reaction builds discipline. Every withheld explanation sharpens authority. God removes your voice so your life can speak. When the time comes, your actions will carry more power than your words ever could, and the impact will be multiplied because it was forged in silence.